Hi everyone. So today I will be answering, not asking, answering your frequently asked questions about VAWA. So we're going to talk about what it is, who qualifies, what documentation you need, all of it. We're going to be answering all of those questions. If you are watching this and you have questions, please put them in the comments. If you're watching in the replay and you have questions, put them in the comments. I do go back and respond to your comments, and sometimes I make a whole video answering your questions that you put in the comments. So do not hesitate, put the questions there. If you would like to have a private consultation with me, you can schedule a strategy session by going to my website, lilylegal.com, or by calling my office at 508-443-1788. So basically, the strategy session is to figure out what you qualify for and what is the best way for you to get to your immigration goals. Okay. So if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out. And now we're going to get into your questions. Remember, if you're watching this live, please put your questions in the comments. If you are watching this on the replay, put your questions in the comments because I do go back and respond to those. Now, first question, what is VAWA? That's everyone's first question. What does that even mean, right? VAWA is for immigration purposes, right? There's a provision under the Violence Against Women Act, and that provision provides for people that are from people that are in the US or even outside the US that are spouses of US citizens or permanent residents, or even children or parents of US citizens that that basically have suffered abuse. So this provision is specifically for spouses, children, and parents of U.S. citizens or permanent residents that have suffered abuse. This allows them to apply for VAWA and then a green card without their spouse, their abuser, being involved, right? So the people that are applying for VAWA can do it knowing fully well that their abuser will not know about it and their abuser will not be involved in the whole process. This takes a lot of power away from abusers and puts it in the hands of the victims. So that is why VAWA was created. This specific immigration provision was created. Now, who is eligible? So victims of domestic violence who are married to US citizens or lawful permanent residents, or are children or parents of US citizens, are eligible for VAWA immigration benefits. Okay, so let me even break it down a little more. So when it comes to parents and children, right? Parents of US citizens can apply if they were abused by their US citizen child. However, the child has to be over 21 for them to get VAWA benefits, right? For children, they can apply if they were abused by their parents. However, they don't have to be 21 before they can apply, right? Because parents are the parents. However, if a parent is applying, the child has to be 21 and a US citizen. Okay. And then Jude, I do not speak Haitian Creole, but feel free to ask me questions. I can answer them, but I do not speak Haitian Creole. So next question, how do you apply for VAWA? Right? Because you heard my first two questions, the answers to the first two questions, you're like, oh, I think this is, something I may qualify for, or I know someone that may qualify for this. How do you even go about it? Well, they need to file an I-360. That's number one, right? That is the actual VAWA application. Now, depending on their situation, they may also qualify to apply for a green card at the same time. And if they qualify to apply for a green card at the same time as they're applying for the I-360, then they're also able to include a work authorization application. So that's why, this was created specifically for victims of domestic violence to empower them. So now not only are they applying for VAWA, right? But they're also dependent on, if it's the spouse of a US citizen, they're able to immediately apply for a green card. If it's a spouse of a permanent resident, they may need to wait a certain amount of time before they can apply for the green card. But once they apply for the green card, they're also able to apply for a work authorization. So that is the, like I said, I-360 is the VAWA application, but in most cases, the person may also qualify to apply for an I-485 and an I-765. Those are the green card application and the work authorization application. Okay. There is no fee for the I-360, but there is a fee for the I-485. Depending on the person's, financial abilities, they may be able to qualify for a fee waiver. So that's the other thing, is if you're applying for the green card and you do not have the financial ability to pay for it, and you can show that you don't have the financial ability to pay for it, there is fee waivers available. USCIS will need to decide whether to approve the fee waiver or not, but you do have the option of a fee waiver for the form filing fees. Now, what documents do you need to provide with the petition, right? So when you're filing for VAWA, you're basically saying, let's take, for example, the spouse of a US citizen. You are saying that you are the spouse of a US citizen. So you need to prove that, one, you and the person are married, and then two, that person is a US citizen. So those are two different things that you need to prove. So your marriage certificate proves that you're married, and then if they have a US passport, a birth certificate, a US birth certificate, those show their citizenship. So it is just a matter of what documentation you actually have access to. This is something your lawyer can work with you on, as far as especially documentation proving immigration status of the spouse that's their abuser. Okay. And then you need evidence of the abuse or extreme cruelty. So basically, what I mean by that is there's two ways to get to prove domestic violence on the VAWA. Either there was physical abuse, so that's battery, or extreme cruelty, which can be anything but physical, right? So let's say psychological abuse, financial abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, those all fall under the extreme cruelty. And it just depends on how, extreme cruelty is not, there's no specific definition for it. So it just depends on a case by case basis what qualifies as extreme cruelty. But under that is everything but physical abuse falls into extreme cruelty, and you just need to have some form of evidence or proof of that. And then you also have to show evidence of good moral character. So this can include police reports that show that, you have never been arrested, affidavits from family and friends. Most of the time, FBI background check is the way to go, because it shows if you've ever had any police interactions or, fingerprints of anything anywhere. Okay. So those are usually the best shows of good moral character. And then as far as the abuse, there's, again, police reports, if the police have ever been called because of a domestic violence situation, medical records, affidavits of people that know about the abuse, and then your own, if you're seeing a therapist, a psychological evaluation, things like that would help to prove the extreme cruelty and the physical abuse. Now, next question is something I already answered, but it says, can I apply for work authorization while my VAWA petition is pending? The answer is yes, as long as you also have a green card application pending. So if you have a green card application pending, you can also apply for work authorization. So if you're just filing the I-360 on its own, you're not able to apply for a work authorization until the I-360 is approved. However, if you qualify to apply for the I-485 at the same time as the I-360, you're also able to apply for the green card application, you're also able to apply for the work authorization, which is the form I-765. So you're able to apply for all of those at the same time if you qualify for it. Now, what happens after I submit my VAWA immigration petition? So after you submit your application, USCIS basically reviews it, the forms, the documentation, and sends it to the Vermont Service Center. That's where all VAWA cases are typically processed and decisions are made on them. From there, there's a few things that can happen. So the work authorization application will be processed on its own because you qualify to apply for that, right? But as far as the VAWA, the I-360 itself, they basically are going to look through your application and make a decision on whether there's enough there for them to give you a prima facie determination letter. So what does that mean? It's basically like a pre-approval. Like, we looked at your forms, we looked at your supporting documents. We think there's enough there that we could approve your case, but we're not in a place right now where we're going to fully look at your case to make a final decision. But we feel like there's enough here, so we're going to pre-approve you. With that pre-approval letter, right, the prima facie letter, with that, you're able to get certain public benefits. So people that are, that are escaping their abusers, once they get that, they're able to apply for housing benefits, food stamps, things like that, that will help them get back on their feet and help them even further get away from their abusers if they're not still living with their abuser. Okay. What if my VAWA petition is denied? Well, if it is denied, there is an option of an appeal, or you can refile. Okay. So there are options available to you, even if your VAWA petition is denied. It's not the end. There are options available to you, and you need to reach out to an immigration lawyer immediately to see what those options could be. All right, because your options depends on why your case was denied. All right. Can I include my children in my VAWA petition? Yes. So if your children are unmarried and under the age of 21, they will be included as beneficiaries, derivative beneficiaries. This is even if your children are not in the US. So let's say you came to the US, you ended up marrying a US citizen, and they end up abusing you, you apply for VAWA, you have children outside of the US that do not have any ties to the US other than the fact that you live in the US. They can also benefit as long as they are unmarried and under the age of 21. They will get VAWA as well, right? So once your VAWA is approved, they are able to then apply for a visa to come to the US and get a green card. Again, these are just benefits that go along with applying for VAWA. All right. All right. So Anne Marie, I'm just gonna stop and look at the comments real quick. So Anne Marie asks, both me and my hubby got I-765 approved. I got my card, but he did not. It's about 20 days now. So I'm not sure what what the basis of the I-765 is. So you may need to he may need to contact USCIS to find out when his card will be issued. Okay. Jude asks, if you just got married to a US citizen this month, can you apply for a green card? Yes. So there's no time. So there's no time limit. This is something a lot of people have a question on, which is, once I get married, how long do I have to wait to apply for a green card through my marriage? There's no time frame. Okay. It's just make sure you have all your, supporting documents of your relationship. Because you just got married, you may not have a lot of things together, but you really don't have to wait, because you have to wait for it to be approved anyway. So you have that time frame while it's pending to have those things together. So basically, USCIS wants to know from the time you got married till, either they make a decision or they do an interview, what kind of documentation do you have for your relationship? So that's the important thing, not how long have you been married. So yes, you can file for a green card even if you just got married. Okay. Winter asks, my VAWA was approved and a new card was produced, and I received an RFE for medical, which I sent. How long does it take for me to get my green card? So it depends. So when you say, okay, so I need clarification on your question. So if the card that was produced is the green card, that means you'll be receiving it in the mail soon. If the card that was produced was let's say, the work authorization or something like that, then the green card will not be attached to that. Okay. So basically, if you sent in your medical and then you checked your the case status and it says a new card was produced, you just need to wait, because that just means that they're producing your new green card. So make sure you're checking the I-485 case status and not the I-360 case status. Okay. Okay. So Winter just clarified it's the EAD card that was produced. So if they send, so the medical, so they've been asking for the medical, but that doesn't mean that they are going to make a decision anytime soon. So that's the only thing there. So it can take a month or it can take several months. So asking for the medical doesn't automatically mean that your case is in front of the officer anymore. So let's say a couple months ago, once we got the request for the medical, it means that your case is right in front of the officer that will make the final decision on your case. That's not really the situation anymore. So just look at, so this is the trick. So if you're watching this and you receive an RFE for medical for your green card application, let me tell you a trick. Look at your RFE. On the top right hand corner, it will tell you who sent you the RFE. Okay. It would either be a service center or a field office. Okay. So how do you know if it's a service center or a field office? If you look on it, it will tell you if it's, you know, your local field office. So basically, you need to know where your local field office is. So for someone that lives in, let's say, Worcester, Massachusetts, their local field office is Lawrence, Massachusetts. So when you look on that right-hand corner of the RFE, that tells you where the mail came from. If it's your local field office, that means you're going to be getting a decision soon. If it's not your local field office, if it's a service center, which means the place that handles, the majority of the stuff and then sends it to the local field office for the final decision, if it's there, then just know you're going to be waiting quite a while before they send the file to the local field office. But if it's already at the local field office, then you should be getting a decision soon. Okay. All right. So I think those were all the questions I see. If you have any more questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I am more than happy to respond. All right. So while I wait for more questions, I'm going to go back to the questions people already sent in. So the next question is, can male victims of domestic violence apply for VAWA immigration benefits? Short answer is Heck yes. Right? So even though VAWA stands for Violence Against the Women Act, right? That's what it stands for. However, we know that people get abused in their relationships, men and women, right? So it is not gender specific. So even though VAWA stands for Violence Against Women Act, it is not gender specific. Okay? It does not discriminate. It is not just for women. Okay? If you are a person that is in an abusive relationship with a US citizen or permanent resident that you are married to, you qualify. Right? If your child abuses you and your child is 21 and a US citizen, you qualify. If you are the child of a US citizen or permanent resident and they abuse you, you qualify. So it does not matter. Gender doesn't matter. Don't look at VAWA, the definition of VAWA, what it stands for, and think that it is gender specific. It is not. It is very gender neutral. The name is not, right? The name VAWA is not gender neutral. However, the provisions are gender neutral. Okay, so men can definitely be victims of domestic violence and can definitely apply for VAWA. Okay. Are VAWA immigration benefits available to same-sex couples? Again, heck yes. This is available to everyone, right? It doesn't matter if you're a same-sex couple or not. Again, the only threshold is that you meet the actual requirements of VAWA, which is being in an abusive relationship with a US citizen or permanent resident. And by being in an abusive relationship, I mean a marital relationship. That is important part of this, is being in that marital relationship. Because you do have to prove not only that you're married to the person, but that you two have a legitimate marriage. Right? So the next question is there an interview for VAWA? No. So for VAWA itself, right, the I-360, there's no interview. However, for if you also apply for a green card, so the I-485, it's up to USCIS whether to schedule you for an interview or not. So there's no interview for, USCIS to determine whether you qualify for VAWA and approve your VAWA, right? They don't have to interview you. However, if you're also applying for a green card, they may interview you, okay? Again, it's up to the officers to look at your file and see if they have any questions that they need you to come in and answer. If you have any criminal records, even if it's something that was dismissed, even if it's something that's not really a problem immigration-wise, they may still have you come in for an interview. You're more likely to come in for an interview if you have any sort of criminal records or any immigration violations in the past that may require a waiver. Okay, so just know that the I-360, you can just apply for an I-360 without a green card application, except you will need to wait for that I-360 to be approved before you can apply for a work authorization. Okay, so that's really the difference there. All right. Oh, and then can I apply for an I-360 without the green card application? Yes. So there are people that do not qualify for a green card. However, they can still get VAWA. So when you get approved for VAWA, you're able to work in the US, you're able to have deferred action, which basically means US immigration is not going to bother you, right? You can live here, you can work here, you can build a life in the US without worrying about US immigration, all right? You may never be able to apply for a green card. However, the VAWA does stabilize you in the US and gives you a path to being here and working and not, looking over your shoulder for immigration. All right. So that's the benefit of applying for VAWA, even if even if you're not able to apply for a green card. Okay. Now, can you still apply for VAWA if you and your partner were never legally married? So this is again, VAWA is specifically for spouses, right? Spouses of US citizens or permanent residents. However, there are some states that recognize common law marriage. It's a very, very small amount of states. However, if you're in one of those states and you meet the requirements of common law marriage and you do whatever is required in that state to establish your common law marriage, then you can still apply for VAWA without being technically legally married to the person. Common law marriage will cover that. Most states do not have common law marriage provisions anymore, so you would need to be legally married to the person. Now, if you were a victim of domestic violence, however, you were not married to your partner, and you reported the abuse to the police, there was, maybe charges were filed, restraining orders were filed. In that situation, you may qualify for a U visa. It's not as beneficial or quick as a VAWA. However, it is an option that may be available to you. However, like I said, VAWA is specifically for people that were married to a US citizen, whether it is a legal marriage or common law marriage. Again, small amount of states that do common law marriage. So if you're in one of those states, then that may be a path for you. All right. If anyone is watching this live and have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. If you're watching in the replay, hey, welcome. Please put your questions in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. And let's see, I think I have chance to make sure I answered all the questions I have here. All right. Oh, okay. So final question. I knew I was missing one. Final question. What happens to my abuser if I file a VAWA application? Do they get into trouble? No. Honestly, no. So VAWA applications are confidential. Okay. VAWA applications are confidential. The US government, USCIS, is not allowed by law, they are not allowed to tell your abuser that you are applying for VAWA. They're not allowed to tell your abuser that you are applying for anything, immigration related. They're not allowed to talk to your abuser about your case. All right. So that's number one. Because they're not allowed to talk to your abuser about your case, nothing beyond just reviewing your case and deciding whether to approve your case or not happens with what you send in. All right. They're not going to forward it to the FBI or the police, because again, if they're doing that, they have to then tell your partner or your abuser why they're being arrested or why they're being charged with a crime, which will then require them to reveal the fact that you applied for VAWA. Okay, so that's why that's not something that would actually happen. They will not tell your abuser that you are applying. They will not get any information about your case. And something, taking it a step further, something I do with my clients is that even mail doesn't go, if you're still living with your abuser, we make sure that none of the mail goes to your address. We make sure that anything that has to do with your VAWA case does not go to you directly. It comes to our office, and we do not. So these are the steps we take. We do not leave you voicemails. We do not send you mail. we do not do certain things, because we know that if you're still living with your abuser, they have access to some of your information. They may have access to your phone. So we don't want to leave a voicemail talking about, hey, we just want to follow up on your VAWA case and give you an update. This is, the current update on your VAWA case. Like, if you're still living with your abuser and they have access to your phone, that may be a problem. So we make sure that confidentiality is already built in our practice. However, we do take it a step further to not leave you messages in VAWA situations. Okay. So again, whatever you tell me, if you have a strategy session with me or a consultation with me, whatever you tell me is also confidential. I am not allowed to tell anyone anything about your case. I'm not even allowed to tell someone, yes, she's a client of mine, or no, she's not a client of mine. So, those are things to keep in mind when you are afraid to talk to a lawyer. Just know we are legally required to not talk about your case with anyone other than you, unless you give us express permission. And for me, that means permission in writing. Other people may just take your word. No, that means your permission in writing, before I would speak to anyone else about your case. So just know we take this seriously, and we keep a very high level of confidentiality here so that our clients are protected at all stages. Okay. All right. So I do not see any other questions, and I do not have any other questions left on my list. So if you do have questions, please do put them in the comments. If you're watching in the replay, put your questions in the comments. I do go back and respond. And yeah, that's really all I have for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and join me live if you did join me live. And just know, if you would like to have a strategy session with me where we talk about your particular immigration situation and what you qualify for, how to get you to your immigration goals, please feel free to reach out. You can go to my website, lilylegal.com, or call my office at 508-443-1788. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, I am Lillian Chukura. I am a U.S. immigration lawyer, and I help my clients get green cards and citizenships for themselves and their families using the U.S. immigration law system. Thank you. Bye.